Hello everyone, and thank you for attending our seminar here. My name is Greg Brainerd. We're going to talk about advancing your Excel skills. Again, my name is Greg. This is going to be presented by Working with Hope and Braintek. Here we've got Hope Hill. She's the founder of Working with Hope. My name is Greg with Braintek. I'm the founder of Braintek. We are a computer networking service company that's been servicing businesses here in the Houston metro area for the last 20 years. I'm also the author of Cybersecurity, Protecting Your Business from Hackers. If you'd like to get a copy of the book, I have it right over here. And today we're going to talk about advancing your Excel skills. So we've got a bunch of different topics we're going to talk about. Most of them are somewhat basic in nature. Here's a listing of what we're going to talk about, like formatting cells, etc. So let's get started. So here we're going to talk about formatting different types of numbers or things within the cells. And there's a couple different ways to do this. So let's say that we're going to do the time of day. Well, one possible way is you can just start typing in 1:00 p.m. and that works great. But if I just do 1 p.m., it doesn't really format it the way I want it to be. Or if I just do 1, it doesn't really indicate what I'm going to do. So let's right-click on this particular cell and choose Format Cells. And from here, the Format Cell dialog comes up, and it gives us a whole bunch of different options. We're going to look for the category for time, and here we've got all of our different layouts that we can potentially do. And there's a couple more going down. And so here you want to look at the one that you want to use. Here you can see in the sample, it's going to show us what it's going to do to our particular cell, if anything. As you can tell, nothing's really happening to our samples. So we're just going to go ahead and click on that. And nothing happened. So now we're going to have to type in 1. Oh, but it did 12 a.m. So we come in here, now we can make our adjustments. So this is going to be 1:30 p.m. And then it keeps in that format for us. Let's take another step further, and we're going to do the format cell again. But this time I want it to be including the seconds. So now when we format it, we come in here and type in our time of day that we want. And that also gives us seconds on there. Another little quick tip is we can do a formula, and we can type in the word today, and that gives us today's date. Now let's see if we format that and if it'll give us a time of day. And it does. Now if you do now, it tells us exactly what time it is at this moment in time. So as you can see, we can do the exact same thing for dates. So we're going to start off and we're going to just type in, this is going to be May 10th, 2024. It'll do that. But notice it put a long year in there. Let's say I don't want that. I'm going to right click on this. We're going to go to Format Cells, and I would rather it show me today's day and then a little bit longer, the full month and everything. So here it reformatted and said it's Friday, May 10th. Like, yeah, I really don't want that. And notice up here where I typed in my actual date, it's still that. But I don't really want that. I want it to be a different type of date. So we're going to come back in here, and you can see we can do just the month and the day, and that's pretty nice. We can do the leading 0 in front of the day. I'm sorry, in front of the month. And there's a couple of different options in here. So you'll get to kind of come in here and play around with how you want this to actually be formatted for your date. Now numbers also, I want to format my number. So let's say that I would like to format my number in different ways. So maybe I need decimal places or whatever. So if we come in here and format my number, we're going to come in here to number. Oops, I don't want to cover that up. You can add decimal places if you'd like. You can add a comma separator for when it gets to thousands. You can also decide if you want a color or brackets if it's a negative number. So let's go ahead and we're going to add the comma here, and we're going to make it red with parentheses around it if it's a negative number. So here we've got just 100. So now we type in 1.5, it's 1.50. If we do a negative 1.5, it now makes it red and puts it with the brackets. Very similarly, money is very structured in the same way. So let's do 4.5, but when you're looking at money, that doesn't look right. So we're going to go ahead and click Format, and we're going to pick in here Currency. And with currency, we can choose the symbol that you want for the money to be shown. So if you're in a different country, you can pick one of the other ones. We're going to just keep it on the dollar sign. And we're going to do the same thing with the red parentheses and the 2 decimal places. So here now we have $4.50, which makes a lot more sense. If we did negative $7, it's going to put it like that. If I did negative 730, or I'm sorry, positive 730, it reformats it for me like this. So I don't have to put the dollar sign there. I don't have to put the last 0, and we can do that. Now let's come over here and we're going to do 8.1. And let's say that I want to do a quick version of this. So up here in the number, so I'm going into the menu system up here. If Excel is expanded out, you might see it like this, where there's a dollar sign there. You can just quickly click on the dollar sign, and it'll just change it into an accounting number. Now notice this one and this one are slightly different. The dollar sign over for the $8 one is over onto the left, where this one is right up against the 7. So this one's currency, where this is accounting. So you can pick different types of currency or accounting depending on your preference on that. You'll also notice that all these other formatting techniques that I talked about are up here in this menu as well. Plus there's additional ones here if you want to do that. You've got the time, date, percentage, fractions, etc. So let's do a fraction. And we got 1.5. So that's 1.5. We're going to come in here and pick a fraction, and it did 1.5 for us. So there's all kinds of different things you can do with this. So I would definitely take some time and explore this. Let's move on to sorting. So sorting is great. I've got this list of names and first, last, and age. And I want to format this so it's the first name is alphabetical. So first thing I can do is I've got my names or my header here and all of my data. So I'm going to go ahead and select all that by clicking and dragging. I'm going to come over here to the sorting icon, and I can just sort A to Z. Now notice it left first, last, and age up there. It knew that was part of my header, or it assumed that it was part of my header. And then what it did is it just went ahead and categorized it all alphabetically. Now let's say that I want to take this a little step further, and I want to sort. So we're going to right click and we're going to choose, we're going to click here and we're going to actually do the custom sort now. So with the custom sort, I can add a different level. So let's say that I want to sort by first name, and I want to do that A to Z. Then I want to do the age, and I want to do youngest to oldest, since we're doing numbers. And let's see if it did anything. It did not really change my stuff. So let's add, I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert a row. And we're going to do another Abigail. And we're going to make Abigail we're going to Anderson. And then we're going to make her younger. So we're going to do her at 5 years old. So now we're going to go ahead and resort this using the custom sort. And we're going to do it again. Now the first Abigail became the first one because of her age was the second qualifier. And then this Abigail was the second. Now of course we can, if we go ahead and reselect, we can change our sorting method all kinds of different ways. So we can, let's say I want to take this and I want to move this up so that age is first and then we recalculate. So there we go. Let's go back to custom sort, and another thing you can see is you've got this my data has headers. Now let's say that that's incorrect, and that actually is a name, so then I can put it into the list and it'll sort it. I'm going to Control Z to undo that, and that's how we do different sorting with different things. Now let's say that we want to filter our list. Let's try filtering. So we're going to come over here to the same menu. We're going to click filter. And notice what it does is it gives us these little drop downs. And in this drop down, I can pick different things. So let's uncheck everybody. And we're going to just check Abigail. So we have 2 Abigails in our list, right? And we're going to click OK. And it filtered all of everybody else out of the list. And it just got just the Abigail. Come back in here and we can reselect everything. And it goes ahead and shows us all of our data again. And we can, of course, just do different things. We can do a numbers filter where, let's say that it's greater than. Let's say I want my greater than 20 years old. And now we've got everybody that's greater than 20 years old that's coming up in my list. I want to clear that. I want to show everybody. So we're going to undo that. Oh, cool. Now let's go back in here, and I made a mistake. I want to do greater than or equal to 10, and I want it to be less than, let's go find less than 50. And now we can resort our list, and we have anything that's greater than or equal to 10 and all the way up to 50 years old. So that's how we do some filtering. Of course, we can go in here and clear it. And there's all kinds of other filters. You'll notice here we got the smallest to largest. We can sort by color. We could do sheets. But we're not going to talk about any of that stuff today. So I would go ahead and just play with different sorting and filtering. So next, we're going to do a find and replace. So I want to find anything that says Lewis in it. So we only have the one. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control F, and we're going to find Lewis. Let's select over here. Find, and notice it'll drop my cell selection right down to Lewis. Let's do something else. Let's do more. And we'll find that. Now we don't seem to have any duplicates in here, so let's add a duplicate. So we're going to insert, and we're going to do Greg Moore. And he's 10 years old. Now we're going to do a find again. And what I want to do is I want to find all the Moores. And notice when I hit find now, it shows me a little extra thing down here at the bottom that shows me my results. And I've got in here in B10, which is my corresponding cell, B10 shows the first one. The second one is in B11, right below it. And notice if I select it, it moves my cursor over here up and down my cell selector. And let's say that I want to replace Moore. So I want to replace Moore with Smith. So I can replace one item at a time, or I can replace all of them at the same time. So I'm going to hit replace all. And right here it tells me that we did 2 replacements, and they're right there for us. Now let's talk about merging our cells together. So we have the same list of employees, but I've got this header up here, and I want this spread across both columns. So we're going to take this particular cell, and we're going to drag and select both cells. And up here in the alignment menu, we're going to click Merge and Center. And what it does is it just combined both of the cells together and then centered the word employees above both columns. If I spread this out, it spreads out the name, the one that's been merged together. If I shorten it up, it also reshortens that specific one up as well. If I go to retype in it, so like I type some more stuff in it, employees that we have, it continues to keep it all in that one cell. And of course, if I double click on this to expand it, nothing happens because it's based off of this. So if we expand this out, it keeps us very nice and centered in that specific cell. Let's say I want to undo that. We just come back over here and click it, and it reverts back to 2 different cells. It goes back to the first cell with your data in it. Now, if you have other data in another cell, and then we grab both and we merge them, we give a warning message. Merging cells are going to only take the left values. So if I click OK, the word other data is going to disappear. And it's gone. Look at that. So be careful when you're merging your cells that if you've got stuff in that next cell over that it keeps it for you. Let's talk about duplicating cells. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. So first of all, you can just select a cell, copy, Control-C, select another cell, Control-V, and paste it. Of course, you can also do that from the file menus and stuff. Control-V and Control-C are great for that. So that's one way. I can select the cell, and I can go to the next cell over, and I can do a formula to duplicate it. So I can do equals, and I'm going to reference the cell next to me, which is B3. And when I do that, it selects which one I'm doing, so I make sure that that's the one I want, because if I'm doing, let's say, B6, notice it's down there. I'm like, well, I don't want that one. I want B3. So that'll help you from fat fingering. So you can certainly do that. It'll copy it for you. The next thing you could do is I can select a cell and just copy it and just kind of drag this little border over to the next one. And notice it's got that little word brown below it. So what it's going to do is it knows that I'm doing this, and so it's going to move brown into that field. And it just duplicated that cell for me. And if I keep on doing it, it'll do it a whole bunch of times. Pretty cool, huh? Let's take a look at some page layouts. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you may want to do when you're printing your data out. So over here we've got a whole menu that we can take a look at with page layouts, which really gets into a lot of different things. We're going to just focus our efforts into this page setup layout area. So first we've got margins to talk about. And in the margins, you may notice that when you're printing out your page, that it doesn't fit right on the page, or you want to change the way that the structure is. Maybe it's got too much of a margin or too little of a margin, or whatever for what you're trying to accomplish. So in here, you've got these pre-selected defaults that you can choose. So you can do wide. And notice that it gives you these little dotted lines here that kind of show you where the page is going to be on here. That's very helpful. So if I'm typing something over here, this is part of my page. Now if I go to print it, this is going to get cut off. Let's go take a look. So we're going to go to File, Print, and this is part got cut off. And now if we go to the next page of my page is on page 2. Well, I don't want that. So let's go back, and we can move this over here. But part of it is going to be these margins. So if I pick a normal margin, it moved it out. So if I had left it in the same one, it would have been part of that. If I go to the narrow one, it goes back, and it makes it even wider for me. So it really depends on what you want to do and how you want this to be structured, and this will move around for you. And of course, you can also come in here and customize your margins by coming to the menu, and then here you can manually adjust what you want. Maybe one side is different than the other side. But go ahead and just play around with that so that you can decide on how you want it to be. Another thing you may want to look at is the orientation of the page. Perhaps it's my Excel sheet is laid out a little differently that's better for landscape. And so when I do that, you can see that these dotted lines moved so that now I have from A to L to fill up. Now, and that assumes, by the way, that your data fits in these column sizes. If it goes beyond this, the same thing will happen. If this is it, it'll be on the next page over. Next, you've got your print area. So I can actually set my print area if I choose. You've selected a single cell for the print area. I click OK. Now this is the only part that is going to print. Let's go take a look at that. File, Print, and only that one cell was part of it. I don't want that. I want this to be my print area. So let's come back into here, and we can either add to the print area or we can set a new one. So we're going to set a new one. And now that box is just around the names. Let's go File, Print. And notice I have one page. It's set up in the landscape that we talked about. And it only includes that. It doesn't include my header, and it doesn't include the part over here that I had previously. Well, that's pretty nice. But I want it to be a little different. So let's come back in here and we're going to just clear the print area. And now it goes back to the default that I had, which was based off of my page size and orientation. So here, if I want to do legal, it expands it even further. And I want to do A4, it shrinks it back up. So all of these different things will help you with setting up your page the way that you want it to be. So we're going to just come back and we're going to set it on portrait. We're going to set it on letter, and we cleared the print area. So we're back to just this. Now, another area that you can think about is setting page breaks. So let's say that right now my page break is way down here. I want it to break right here. So we're going to set a page break and we're going to insert it here. So now we've got this line here, and we can do it a couple more times if we want. So this is going to be a page 1, a page 2, page 3. Let's go take a look. We're going to print, and sure enough, it broke it up into those 3 pages. And of course, this is the last part of my page. So that also got included in there too, which is way over here. We're going to come back. I don't like that. We can remove one page break, or we can reset them all. Let's reset them all. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a different part where this is the way that I prefer to set up stuff. We're going to come over here to the View menu, and we're going to look at the Page Break Preview. Now, it just made everything really shrink down and look small, but what it's doing is it's showing you what the page breaks would look at, and you can drag it around. So this is really what I want. This is going to be a little bit better for me, and I can drag this down. Oh, cool. Oh, wow, I've got a couple more pages here. Well, let's say that I don't want to include this at all. I don't want a page 3 and 4. We're going to shrink that up, and we're going to shrink this up, and that's my actual page. Now, if I go to, now this is no longer going to be part of the printout. So I go to File, Print, and there it is. I have one page and nothing else. Now, if I go back and expand that out, and File, Print, we have page 1 like we have set, and then that's my page 2. Let's say that I want, let's go back, and we're going to go ahead and let's go to File, Print. Let's get this up here like this. And you'll notice it's kind of up here in this upper right corner. Well, I want to make that more centered in the page. So we can click on Page Setup here. Come back over here to the margins that we were talking about, and there's this option down here at the bottom for center it in the page. So I'm going to center it, and notice that in this little example, it's centered the stuff right in the middle of the page. If I click OK, it moved it over. And now if we go back, let's shrink this up to here and go back to File, Print, and let's see what that looks like. And now it's very centered in the page. Let's say I want to move it down the page too, so I want it a little more vertically set up. We can add the option to vertical, and notice it moved everything into this area, and it moved it down. Now, of course, it's not going to be perfect depending on how your data is structured, so you're going to have to play around with that. And you can also make some adjustments by, again, messing with these margins. So let's say we change this from 0.7 to 2. And I'm going to tab out of it, and then we're going to see what that does for us. And it kind of shifts it over. Ah, that's too much. Well, then you can come back in here and make some more adjustments. So you can play around with this a little bit. Let's probably recenter it back up for us. And just kind of figure out how you want to do it. So you can do it manually, or you can do the centered on the page. And of course, don't forget that if you've got your page layout, so if this is really wide like this, and we go to File, Print, it's going to shift it back over a little bit. So you're going to have to mess around with that. Obviously, anything that's kind of more rectangular in nature will center on that page a lot better than this. Another part that's important to note is right here we've got different pages, right? Well, what about the other worksheets? Well, notice here it's only printing the one active sheet that you're on, the one that you've selected. You can also print the entire workbook. So now as soon as I do that, it'll include everything in this workbook. You can set how many pages you want, maybe only 1 and 2. And then it'll print 1 and 2. you can print only the selection, so whatever you have highlighted, which is my cell right there. If I highlight this and then do file print, it only grabs that information. So you can do a whole bunch of different things, but by the default, it's just the active sheet that you're working on. Let's move on to freezing. So in freezing, we're going to go back to that same menu that we were on. Now notice that I've got all this list of names, but if I scroll, it all just scrolls off the screen. And if we had a lot of names on here, let's just add some name, copy and make more of this. When I get down here, it's hard to tell what column I'm really on. Now this is pretty obvious because we're dealing with first, last names and phone numbers. But if this was just different types of data, you may not know what this is in reference to. So what we're going to do is we're going to freeze this top pane for us. So let's come back over here to the View menu, and we're going to click on Freeze Panes. And we have a couple different options. We could freeze, keep rows and columns visible. We could use just the top row or just the first column. So we're going to freeze the top row. And notice it puts a little line for us. And as we scroll down, the first column, or I'm sorry, the first row stays there. Now let's say I don't want that. We're going to go, no, but that's the wrong thing. So we're going to unfreeze, and that line disappears. I really want this first column. So we're going to come over here and freeze the column, and that line goes this way. So now if I'm starting to scroll this way, column A stays there, right where I want it to be. And that's freezing. You can also freeze in different places. Now notice, once I highlighted that, now these first 5 rows are going to stick up there for me. You can unfreeze that. Now another part you can do is splitting. Splitting is pretty close to this, where it gives me these horizontal and vertical lines, and I can move them into different positions. And so now, when I'm over here and I'm scrolling, it'll just move that left and right, or this up and down. It's a little bit different, but you can do that, and you can kind of reposition this. And if you don't like this, you can take this and move it to a new place, or you can move it off the screen entirely, and now we just have the top. And you can also scroll up here. And if you don't want it anymore, just move it off completely, and now it's all gone. So we've undid the split on that one. Well, let's talk about wrapping. Not like M&M wrapping, but we're going to talk about wrapping text. I've got this big long piece of text here and it doesn't fit into the cell. So if I start typing in something else here, here, now it cuts off A. Well, I want to see it. So if we come back over here to the home menu, we can click on this item here, which is wrap text. Now when we do that, it expands it out and wraps my text. And then here we can decide if we want that left, centered, or right justified, or if I want it centered in the field, in the cell. So let's say I expand my cell out a little bit, and it's all up here in the top corner. I don't like that. So I can center it in the cell. It's still left justified, and then I can center it this way. And then of course if I adjust my cell size, it stays that way for me. And if I unwrap it, then it goes back to that, but it's still centered in the cell. But you can make all kinds of different things. And of course, if I merge my cells together and I wrap it, then I can do different things with that. So maybe I want it at the bottom corner, I want it in the centered, however you want that really set up. But you can wrap your text like that. And if you undo it, you can unwrap it. How about we want to add some additional icons to the top of my bar? I use all these different things all the time, but I hate going through all these little menus and hunting them down. Well, over here, you can click on the Customize Access Toolbar icon. And in this first part of the menu, they've got all these common things that you might use all the time, like new, open, save, etc. So what you can do is you can add them by just check marking them, things that you commonly use, and put them into your quick menu. If you don't see something, you're like, oh, man, I really want this page layout. Well, you can come in here to the More Commands, and you can look through the list of available options, and here's page setup. We can add that to the list. Or we can keep looking and find, I want the sum icon, because I use that all the time. Any of those things you can just add to your list, and they put them up here for you. You're like, oh, I really am not using save. I can just uncheck it and it disappears. But the sum one is not there, so I go back to more commands, and I can get rid of sum. I really don't need that anymore. We can remove everything. And now we're just back down to nothing, and then you can go back and make whatever changes you want to your quick access bar. Let's talk about splitting data. Now here, I've got a list of names, and they're all in one column. Well, that's not very easy for me to sort unless I'm only sorting by the first name. So I want to split this up. Well, still here on the View menu, we have an option for, no, that's the wrong split. It's under the Data menu, sorry. And what we're going to do is we're going to do Text to Column. Now, Text to Columns will give me this little wizard menu, and we can split it up based off of different things. So we can do by a delimitation, so that's a character like a comma, tab, or whatever. Or I can do a fixed width. So let's do delimited to start with, and we can do next. And here we can uncheck tabs, so we're not doing that, and we can use space, or we can do our own custom one. So let's try a custom one real quick. So we're going to put in here, I want to do it by the letter A. And notice that it split my data using the letter A. So if you've got a special character you want to use, you can do that. Otherwise, we're just going to do spaces, and we're going to do next, and finish. And it just moved our data across. Now I'm going to undo that, and let's try it one more time. We're going to do on a fixed width, and what we can do is we can do it here, and now it's going to split my data based off of that line that I drew on the screen. And that's how you split your data. Let's go back to dragging data. So this is pretty cool when you've got data that Excel knows how exactly what to do with. So here I've got a couple of examples I just started off for you. I got the months. So I'm going to select both January and February here, and then I'm going to drag them down to 12. And notice that each time I drag, it selects or it shows me what months it's going to end up with. So if I go down to 12, it's December, and if I go to 13, it goes back to January. So I'm going to let go, and it just populates it. Also notice that it's stayed in that 3-character limitation that I started with. If I do the same thing with the full month name, and I drag it down, it repeats the entire month name. Now it's not just limited to months. We can do this with numbers as well. We can do it with even numbers or odd numbers. I can do it horizontally and vertically. We can do it with years. And we can do it with negative numbers. And we can even do it backwards. So we've got all kinds of options that we can do with this. It's pretty intuitive. And if it can guess what you're trying to do, it'll start to do it for you as well. And it'll make suggestions. But you can do this and just keep on going. Let's say what I'm going to do by 5s. 5, 10, 15. Oh man, I don't want to type all that out. Let's just drag it on down here. And it just created that. Oh, I didn't need that many. Let's go ahead back and select it. And we're going to undo. I just needed 50. That's all I needed. Cool. So you can just drag cells to quickly duplicate your data. Let's look at some conditional formatting. With conditional formatting, we can highlight the color of our data that we have. So let's take a look. I've got a bunch of random numbers here. And we're going to come back over to here to the Home menu. We're going to go to Conditional Formatting. And I want to highlight numbers that are greater than or equal to. So we're going to start off with greater than. So any number that's greater than 10, I want to highlight in red. Cool. Now, I want to also go back and anything that's less than 10, I want it to be a different color. I want it to be green. And then let's do one more step. I want to do highlight if it's equal to 10. And I want that to be yellow. And of course, so now all my data is different colors based off of what I just typed. Now if I type in another number here, it keeps it. keeps on going for me like that. And if I don't like this, I can come in here over my formatting and I can clear the rules on the selected cells, the entire sheet. We can make new rules, we can do custom rules. We've got all kinds of options. We can do between, text containing, date occurring, duplicate values. Oh, let's take a look at duplicate values. Over here we've got duplicate values. So we're going to do our conditional formatting, duplicate values, and all my duplicates, yeah, red's fine. And now it's red. Well, we're going to change this to hills. Oh, this is no longer duplicate, so it's no longer part of that. If I delete it, all the duplicates are gone. If I put it back, oh, look at that. It even did it when it was a different case, so it's not case sensitive that way. Let's try. Oops. It still does it. And then, of course, you can come in here and clear it off. And there's all kinds of things you can do with this. You can do top 10 items, you can do data bars, there's all kinds of things you can do with conditional formatting. But that's all we're going to touch about today. Concatenation. So concatenation is the merging together of two cells. So there's a couple different things that we can do with that. Let's start off, and we're going to do a formula. Equals concatenate. And here, when we do the parenthesis, it asks us if we want what text we want. So we're going to put in a reference to the cell. So we're going to do A2, and it highlights Greg, comma B2. And notice we can keep on going if we had more. We don't, so we're going to just end the parentheses and we stop. And then it just put Greg Brainerd in. It's a one word. Now you can also do this if you want to concatenate. You can do Greg, comma, Brainerd. You can do that as well. A2 and B2. And you can do it with concat, which is a shortened version of that same thing. Now let's import some data. So let's say that you've got some other file that you want to import into my Excel. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to come over here to the data menu, and we're going to import from another text file. And so let's go down and find a folder that we're going to come to. And I'm going to import some names. So this is the names that I have in a CSV file, which is a comma separated value format. We're going to go ahead and import that. And then we got a little wizard that comes up here, and it says, okay, well you've got, it's going to delimitate by the comma. We're going to import based off the first couple, how to detect it, or you can do the whole thing, or don't detect anything. It all shows you what your data is going to look like, so here's a preview. And let's just click load. And it just simply is going to load my data in. And it's filtered for you automatically. So again, I can uncheck people if I want to filter it or not. But that's how you import some data from a CSV file. Now let's go back to a different cell here. Let's say I want to export this one sheet to a CSV file. So sometimes your accountant or somebody else will ask for you to have this data into a CSV format, which is simply comma separated value. And I want to save it. So we can go to save a copy. We're going to pick a location. I'm just going to pick my desktop. And here, under the save file type, we want to choose CSV. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. So there's this one, and there's a couple different that are specific to Mac, old DOS. So we're just going to pick this first one here. We're going to give it a name, our CSV, or names, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to click save. Oh, well, I can't save there. There we go. Save. Oh, we have a different warning. It says the selected file type doesn't support workbooks that contain multiple sheets. So that means when we go to save this, only this one sheet that we have marked highlighted sorting is going to be saved. Also, if you have any special formatting like bold, colors, those types of things, so that'll be eliminated from the CSV format as well. We're going to click OK. and it saved my file. And let's go find it. So here it is. And if I right click on this, and we're going to open it up not in Excel but in Notepad. And here's how it looked in Notepad. It's got our column at the top, or I mean our header at the top, and then it's just everything broken down exactly how we saved it or how we have it listed here. And it's all, there's no spaces, it's just comma separated formatted file. Let's go take a look at some basic formulas. All right, so we've got sum, average, counting numbers, and counting names. So we'll start off with summing. So we want the answer to be at the bottom of this. So we're gonna start with below the sum. We're gonna come over here and we're gonna click on this backwards E symbol, which is the sum symbol, and we're gonna sum. And automatically Excel knows that I want to do these. Now if it doesn't, if I wanna move my selection down, I can certainly do that. We're going to just leave it there, hit enter, and now it's summed. And then here's the sum formula, which is sum, and then we're going to the starting cell, colon, which is the range, and A4. So let's say that I wanted to, let's change this a little bit, and I only want to sum this one and that one. So we're going to have to select them both, and I used Control to select them both. So I should get the answer 4 here, and notice that in my formula here it's now separated by a comma. I'm going to hit enter, and now we're at 4. So that's how you would do sum. Average is very similar. So instead of summing, we're going to pick average. Excel automatically selects what it thinks I want to average, and does it. Now I'm going to stop right here. We're going to come down here, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to average, but pick the whole thing. And still does the exact same thing for us. Now let's say that I move this down. It still keeps it, but notice it's just that range. So if I type a number here, oh, it was smart enough to pick that up. It's just automatically grouped it for me. If I want to average just 2 of the numbers or 3 of the numbers, I can do that, and it'll do that for me as well. Counting, you just, again, coming back over here to count. It wants to count, and it counts my numbers. What about if I want to count names? Let's do count. Oh, look, it went that way, because it knows that these aren't numbers. But no, I want to count this, Excel. Oh, well, that didn't work. Well, that's because we have to use a different formula. We're going to use count A, which counts names or strings. And of course, if we move this down here, oh, we still have 3. So now if I start typing in this Sabrina, now it counts 4, 5. Oh, but it didn't get that one because it's out of our range. So we would just expand the range, and it gets it. And that is some basic formulas for you. Let's take a look at hyperlinks. Now, we can do all kinds of things with hyperlinks. They're website addresses, typically, or references to files on your computer. So we're going to start off, and we're just going to type in a website address, Braintek.com. Oh, it already knows that. If I hover over this, it changes to a hand, and it tells me if I click on this, it'll open up a browser. That's pretty cool, but I don't want it to say Braintek.com. So we're going to come over here to insert. Nope, not insert. Insert this one, and we're going to come over here to link, and what we're going to do is we're going to type in Braintek. That's what I want it to display, and the address is going to be https://braintek.com. And there we go. Now we have Braintek there. Now let's say that I want to do a file on my computer. We go back to the link, and we're going to pick this Deadpool Excel file, and we're going to click on that. And now, if I click on that, it'll open up my Deadpool file. This will automatically go to the Braintek.com website. And then this one will also go to the Braintek.com website. So you've got all kinds of different things that you can do with this. Now, again, you can also go to the link, and I can choose Deadpool, but I don't want it to have Deadpool exe. I want this to be my Deadpool file. And now we've got my Deadpool file. And by the way, we're going to go see the Deadpool movie I'm excited about that. Well, I'd like to thank you for hanging out with us. If you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them now. If you'd like to donate to Working with Hope, please visit this website of donorbox.org/r-a-r-e-support-network, or scan the QR code. And if you need any help with your IT in your business, give us a call at 281-367-8253, scan the QR code, or visit braintek.com/request-a-quote. I'd like to thank you, and you have a great day.